Good morning. Before we get started, do you remember the last three memory verses? 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 10, A and C. Therefore I take pleasures in infirmities, in reproaches, in distress for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then am I strong. Psalms 12, verse 2. My help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. In 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 3. Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus. In this great mercy, he has given us new birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. As you listen to today's story, Crossing the Red Sea, think about these questions. Number 1. Moses and Aaron led the people out of Egypt. How did God guide them on their journey? Number 2. Where did the Israelites make their first camp? Number 3. Why were the Israelites frightened when they saw Pharaoh's army following them? Number 4. Whom did they blame for this problem? And number 5. How did God answer Moses' prayer? Crossing the Red Sea. Moses and Aaron led the people out of Egypt, but they did not choose the way to go. God went with them, and he chose the way. In the daytime, he was in a great cloud that moved slowly before the people. At night, the cloud became a pillar of fire, and God watched over them while they rested. By day or by night, the Israelites could look at the cloud or pillar and say, "Our God is going with us, and he is leading the way." After the great company left Goshen, God led them by the cloud to the Red Sea. Here they camped. They planned to rest from their march, but suddenly someone ran through the camp shouting, "Pharaoh's army is coming. We shall be taken prisoners or killed."
The people looked, and sure enough, Pharaoh's army was coming behind them. The Israelites could not swim across the Red Sea. Neither could they fight against Pharaoh's skillful soldiers. How frightened they were. At first, the people blamed Moses. "Why did you bring us out here in this wilderness to die? Why have you done this to us? We would rather have been slaves to the Egyptians than to die here." But Moses was not to blame. He had only followed the cloud, and the cloud had led them there. When Moses cried to God for help, the Lord told Moses to speak to the people and quiet them. They were all crying in fear. Moses told the people, "Fear not. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will show you today. For the Egyptian you have seen today, you will see no more forever."
The cloud moved backward and stopped between their camp and Pharaoh's army. To the Israelites, the cloud became a pillar of fire and lightened their camp all night. But to the Egyptians, the cloud was all darkness. God told Moses, "Let the Israelites go forward. Lift your rod over the sea and divide it." Moses obeyed, and God sent a strong wind. The wind swept a wide path through the waters and dried the ground. On each side of this path, the waters rose like a high wall until every one of the Israelites and all their cattle had crossed to the other side. Pharaoh's heart had hardened again after he sent the Israelites out of Goshen. He said, "I have made a great mistake by letting all my slaves go free. I must send an army after them and bring them back." So he followed the Israelites. With him were all the chariots of Egypt and their captains.
When the cloud lifted, Pharaoh and his army saw the Israelites walking through the sea on a dry path between two walls of water. The Egyptians rushed after them. When Pharaoh's army was far out from the shore, trouble began. The horses got tangled in the harnesses, and their feet began to sink in the sand. The chariot wheels came off. "Let us go back," the soldiers cried. "Israel's God is against us." But it was too late. They could not go back, for the walls of water fell down and the whole army was drowned. At last, the Israelites were free. They knew God had saved them from their enemies. Moses wrote a beautiful song about the crossing of the Red Sea, and the people sang and rejoiced, playing musical instruments called timbrels. The women went through the camps singing to God.
Now let's answer the questions from earlier. Number 1. Moses and Aaron led the people out of Egypt. How did God guide them on their journey? God guided them by day with the cloud and by night with a pillar of fire. Number 2. Where did the Israelites make their first camp? Along the shore of the Red Sea. Number 3. Why were the Israelites frightened when they saw Pharaoh's army following them? They had no way to escape. Number 4. Whom did they blame for this problem? They blamed Moses. And number 5. How did God answer Moses' prayer? God made a pathway through the Red Sea. This week's memory verse is Proverbs 3:5. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. Think about it. Not so identical twins.
There was once two brothers who were identical twins. Now, even though they looked exactly alike, they were exact opposites when it came to their personalities. One brother was an eternal optimist. He always saw good in everything and everybody. The other brother, however, was an eternal pessimist. He never saw good in anything, anywhere. One Christmas, their parents decided to try an experiment on them to see if there was any way that the two brothers could find some balance in their personalities. To the pessimist son, the parent gave a bright, shiny bicycle. To their optimist son, they gave a bag filled with nothing but straw. They put the presents under the tree with the boy's name on them and waited to see what would happen.
On Christmas morning, the two boys ran downstairs to discover what they had received from their parents. Upon finding the bicycle, the pessimist proclaimed, "A bicycle? Why'd you give me a bicycle? It's too cold to ride outside, and besides, I would probably fall and hurt myself. I can't believe you got me a lousy bicycle." The optimist opened his present, found the bag of straw, and thought for a minute. Suddenly, he ran to the backyard and began looking around frantically. His parents and brothers were completely puzzled, and they finally asked him, "What in the world are you doing?" To which he replied, "Well, after getting this bag of straw, I just know there's a pony around here someplace. Just haven't found him yet."
Application. Attitudes can make huge difference in your circumstances. When things happen to you at home, at school, with your friends, you have two choices. You can take the high road or the low road. The high road is to remain positive and look for the good in your situation. The low road is to be negative and see only the bad. One road leads to happiness, the other to despair. Really, the choice is yours. Circumstances don't have to control your life. You can instead control how these circumstances affect you. You have the power. As Christians, we have every reason to take the high road and to be optimistic about life. Because of Christ, we have hope, real hope. We know that no matter what happens, God is in control, and we have the victory that Christ won for us on the cross. The Apostle Paul was in prison when he wrote, "Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice." Philippians 4:4. That's the kind of attitude we need to have. Our memory verse for today is, "Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding." Proverbs 3:5.
This concludes today's lesson.